We are back with another episode of The Gold Standard. Charlie Goldsmith and Joe Daneman. We talk Reds and Bengals on this podcast. And we are going to start with the Cincinnati Reds right off the top. Then we'll get to the meat of the Bengals. But the Reds have earned themselves a discussion point to start the show. As of this taping, it's after the Reds have won the series in San Diego. They're now 2 games back of the final wild card spot and what's going to be a wild couple of last weeks here in the National League to see who gets there. What's your headline for the Cincinnati Reds right now, September 11th, with still 15-plus games to go and a chance to get to the playoffs?
Meaningful September baseball. And they've earned their way back into the conversation. They've earned the opportunity to feel the pressure that they're going to be going through now. It's their starting rotation that kind of carried them out of the funk that they're in. It's also on a team on a real upward trajectory. Stevenson's back. Sal Stewart's here. McLean's getting hot. Friedel's getting hot. Cabrera and Austin Hayes both. And then the young guys in the bullpen. So it's a team with pieces to make a shot here.
Okay, we're going to get back to the Reds, including talking about tiebreakers and remaining schedules for the 3 teams fighting for that final wild card spot. A lot of Reds discussion coming up, but let's talk about the Bengals. We now have the first data point of the season. An ugly win in Cleveland before the home opener this weekend against the Jacksonville Jaguars. What's your hottest take on the Bengals' Week 1 win in Cleveland?
We still don't know much about the defense, but what we do know is Al Golden took the first step. What the Bengals hired him to do, to coach a defense, which we know has questions, has, what's kind of the talent here at certain spots. Well, the young guys needed to play fast. And for as many mistakes as the Bengals made kind of in coverage or not finishing sacks, the young guys played fast, they played confident, they played with an energy and a physicality that was missing last year, and they tackled. So the big takeaway for me from that game was Al Golden did the first part. He's doing his end of the bargain here, and that showed up all over the tape.
Energy, physicality, and attitude. I thought sometimes at the point of the tackle, the Bengals tackled with attitude, and that felt different. There are certain players that I thought stood out when I watched the game. And understand, when I'm watching a game, at an NFL game, I'm looking through a TV camera lens, so I'm following the ball. So I don't see the full 22 like you do. That's why I'm excited to have this conversation. I thought Jordan Battle was excellent in this game. And I've been very skeptical of Jordan Battle and what he can be for the Cincinnati Bengals. Is it his development, or is it Al Golden that unlocked Jordan Battle to be a difference maker at the safety position?
I won't get too far into the weeds, but an interesting, a fascinating schematic change is, for example, in the past, like Jesse Bates was the Bengals center fielder, free safety, and Von Bell was move around in the box, doing kind of that middle of the field strong safety stuff. The safeties this year are playing sides. You're either on the right or you're on the left. So Jordan Battle went from being the Von Bell replacement, the strong safety in the box guy, to a guy who really gets to play his position. So they've put more on his plate. He now knows twice as much of the defense. And that showed up, the things coaches stressed to me, the communication, the range, the instincts, anticipation, and awareness. All things that I think the scheme helped him unlock. Also, last year, they brought back Vaughn to take his spot. Now he knows he's the guy. And there's some added confidence that comes with that.
Range and instincts, awareness, such great words for a safety to have to be a successful football player. Another guy that stood out to me, again, from the sideline through a TV camera, was Demetrius Knight. And I'm not sure what our expectation was for Demetrius Knight, a guy making his first NFL start. But he led the team in tackles, and it felt like when he hit somebody, he arrived with violence, he arrived with conviction, he arrived with attitude. What was your feeling on Demetrius Knight's NFL debut?
He continues to impress me the most in coverage. There was a play, I believe, kind of a short pass to the Browns' best pass catcher, in my opinion, tight end David Njoku. Knight was all over it, clobbered Njoku, broke it up. I literally wrote in my notes, sick play. And I don't write a lot of plays in my notes, but that one was that special. That backs up what Demetrius did in training camp. He just has a good feel for the quarterbacks, for eyes, for concepts, for the communication stuff that we were talking about with Jordan Battle as well. Oh, and also he can definitely hit somebody. There were learning moments. There were times where he kind of got stuck. He has to maybe be more decisive or trigger a little earlier. But on the whole, for a rookie making his first start, he did the exact fundamentals that you want to see.
One more player defensively. You've done your all-22 dive. Shamar Stewart, how did he grade out his first week?
My favorite interview of the week, I caught up with him yesterday about the play. We've all seen it. Viral play, takes a 370-pound tackle, throws them all the way to Kentucky. He said, I knew it right away. He said, once I made contact, I know he had leverage. I thought, he's going out the window, and he did. What I like about Shamar Stewart is he goes power to speed very quickly in terms of in a step or two, he's going full speed as he's going through somebody, and that was very impressive. Real impact on plays as well. While it didn't show up statistically, some of the biggest plays there were Shamar breaking through, his versatility, a huge part of the defensive line. They kind of moved him inside in some goal line situations, and he held up when the Bengals' backs were against the wall. I feel very good about what he did.
We said many times on this show leading into the season that we didn't think we were going to get a great read on the Bengals defense if they made improvements by playing Cleveland week 1. I'll say this, you go back to last year and look at the box score when the Bengals played in Cleveland, it's not all that different from what they did in week 1. So that was a bad defense, and they performed pretty good against Cleveland last year. So what do we know about this Bengals defense? We'll see. But I do think the individuals playing positions better, especially Jordan Battle, can help lead to a better sum of all those parts. Now, to look forward, do you think Jacksonville is the kind of test offensively that we get a better read on what this Bengals defense is really going to look like in 2025?
I have no idea, and here's why. But it's not the Bengals. It's one of the biggest questions in the NFL right now, actually, is Trevor Lawrence's accuracy.
Yeah.
But we'll table that for a second. The Bengals were a missed kick away from the story of the game being defensively, how Cam Taylor-Britt especially, and also DJ Turner in a few specific situations, were put under the microscope, struggled in man coverage, didn't make one-on-one plays, and frankly nearly cost the Bengals the game. And now, while Lawrence's accuracy is a big question, he's got 2 first-round picks that he's thrown to in Hunter and in Thomas. And those guys are much more imposing one-on-one receivers than what the Bengals faced in Cleveland last week. So it's going to be a game where the corners, who had a concerning performance and didn't really light the world on fire in training camp, have to have an immediate response with their technique and fundamentals.
Cam Taylor-Britt. Okay, let's have the conversation here because Cam Taylor-Britt knew this was a big season for him. It's a contract year. He wants to get paid. You said go out there and make $50 million. That's the line that's been said to Cam Taylor-Britt. Week 1 was not it. In fact, I remember a play at the end of the game, he was hitting his chest saying, my fault. There are no more my bads, right, with Cam Taylor-Britt. He said he went to Al Golden and told Al Golden, I'll be better going forward. Zach Taylor came back and said Marvin Lewis's favorite line, I see better than I hear. What's your take right now on Cam Taylor-Britt and not great performance in week 1? Looking forward for Cam Taylor-Britt, how urgent is it for him to get this thing figured out and be a better player this year?
I don't know if this makes it more concerning or less concerning, but the catches he allowed weren't the catches he was allowing last year. Last year, he really struggled on vertical routes down the sideline. This year, it was over the middle, it was slants, it was getting stuck in space. So is that good that, he usually is fine on those routes, or is it bad, he's now struggling on those routes? You also, I think we'll learn a lot more this week. The receivers specifically that they're going to be tasking him of going up against will expose a lot, especially down the sideline with what they're able to do. And then the rotation as well. It was DJ Turner rotating with Josh Newton. Al Golden showed that he's willing to take a guy out if he needs the game to slow down for him. It wouldn't be like a punishment like it was last year to include Taylor-Britt going forward in that rotation. We'll learn very quickly how they really feel about Cam based on how quickly they pull him or don't, and then how he goes up against these receivers.
Let's talk about the offense here, and specifically Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow did everything he could in the offseason to get off to a fast start. He had a healthy training camp. He had no injuries to come back from. He played in the preseason. They scored touchdowns on, 4 of their 5 drives with Joe Burrow at quarterback in the preseason. And then he comes out against Cleveland. And we understand Cleveland always gives Joe trouble. Now, you said the Bengals don't have a Browns problem. You're right. They're 5-1 in their last 6 against the Browns. But Joe's numbers against the Browns have not been good. They weren't good in week 1. What was your diagnosis of what went wrong for Joe Burrow and his weapons in week 1 against the Browns?
The game and the offense struggled for the most part because of 4 plays. It was a go ball to Jamar down the sideline on the possession in the second quarter where they didn't score. It was a go ball to Jamar Chase in the third quarter where Newsome makes a great play. Jamar probably should finish it anyway. It was a whole shot that Burrow saw to tee the ball was just maybe a foot too high, or Higgins was a step ahead of his route, and they just didn't connect there. And then the following play, Burrow gets clobbered, but he gets off a beautiful throw to Jamar on the sideline, but it's just a step too far, and Jamar can't drag his toe in. There were 4 plays where I think the Bengals should have made all 4. I think they usually make all 4. If they make all 4, they score 35 points in Cleveland. If they make 1, they score 24 points, and it's not a close game anyway, maybe even 30. It was those plays, and I'm not too concerned about them. I just think they got, like some great hitters go 0 for 4.
Yeah.
I think they just had their 0 for 4 day. Now, the one thing that was concerning to me was the 4-minute offense when they needed to run out the clock. Like, that's something I'm actually now kind of worried about. But Burrow and the receivers and the passing game and what the offense did for the first 55 minutes of the game, that to me, I just kind of tipped my cap, to be honest.
The big story on the offensive line was Lucas Patrick going down early, and Dalton Risner, who had 1 padded practice in Cincinnati before the game, comes in and plays. You had a chance to watch the offensive line performance in the All-22, and that's the All-22. You can see the entire field and everybody and how they're doing. How do you think the offensive line graded out in this game?
Mims was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, awesome. Like, the hype train should continue to be accelerating.
My bold take that he's going to the Pro Bowl, we're 1 for 1.
Dalton Risner, he had a couple moments, but for a guy who was in the spot he was in, what a success, exceeding my expectations by 1,000%. A lot of credit to Dalton for what he did on the whole as in a brand new system for him after not hitting anybody for all of camp. Ted Karras was Ted Karras. Dylan Fairchild had his growing pains.
Okay.
There was a play where kind of Myles Garrett gets through because they don't pick up a game on Myles Garrett's second sack on kind of that sack drive. Mm-hmm. That happens because Fairchild just gets fooled by a spin move, and the guy breaks through. Burrow has to shuffle into Myles Garrett's pressure. And then Orlando Brown, a huge part of it is Myles Garrett. I also think there were plays that, frankly, Orlando Brown just should have made, considering the caliber of offensive lineman that he's been. The line was solid. It definitely gave him a chance to win. Fairchild's got work to do. Risner was a success. I think Brown needs to bounce back, certainly with the top caliber pass rushers on the Bengals schedule. But then back to that 4-minute offense when they needed to pound the rock. And there was one play where Orlando Brown fell down. That was maybe more on him. One play where Fairchild could have gotten a little higher. But then that stuff too is Cody Ford as a big tight end struggled. The tight ends needed to do more. So up front, especially when they tried to pound the rock, you wanted to see more from the unit as a whole, not just the line.
Overall, and a win is a win in the NFL, was week 1 not win-loss column win, but was week 1 a win for the Bengals?
Yeah, do you want to, not you, but do you, the fan, want to really be in the reality where the Bengals are now rewriting their training camp schedules again next year because they still can't win week? We're going to have practice at 6 in the morning this year. And Burrow's going to do series with Isaiah Williams instead of Mitch Tinsley in the preseason. They just needed it. Yeah. And I have felt relief just getting that win. And now they can just go forward with the rest of their season and not have something that won't even come up again for 12 months be in their mind, like the slow starts we're heading into this year.
I said after that game, and even felt it Monday and Wednesday in the locker room, that's the most optimistic a locker room has been after a win since, I believe, they won in mid-2023 at San Francisco.
Great game.
Because last year, even when they won games, there was kind of this feeling that the season was probably not going to go where they wanted to go. So it always came with that caveat of, great win, yeah, that was fun, but what does it mean? Because the big picture means we're still likely not going to the playoffs. So, okay, we'll come back to the Bengals in the Gold Rush. Let's now transition to the Cincinnati Reds. And the Reds, we said it at the top of the show, are 2 games back. The final wild card spot was still 17 games left or 16 games, whatever it is at this point. It doesn't matter. It all depends on when you listen to the show. They're in good position, right, to be able to strike here the final couple of weeks. I'm not going to ask you to put a percentage on it, but do you think the Reds can do this? Do you think the Reds can get to the finish line and get this team back to the playoffs this year?
Yeah. And it's not like a planting my flag or anything. But yeah, what I like and what I talked about earlier was there are guys you feel on an upward trajectory. And I haven't felt that way about the Reds since the middle of June, where you kind of see a wave all going forward all at once and taking that step collectively. And that's an exciting spot to be, especially with the rotation that's shown that it can carry a team in huge games.
Was the win against San Diego to finish out the series their biggest win of the year?
Oh, definitely. Against that bullpen, I know a couple other guys were down, but Morejon's one of the toughest lefties in the league. For Ellie to, with everything he's going through, just kind of do the simple thing and take that opposite field single. For Andujar, who's too hurt to play consistently, to give a reminder of why he's on this roster because of what he can do in that situation. And then for TJ Friedel, bunt, hustle coming around from second, like Ellie stealing second. Like the formula for them is their pitching, their speed, and then their depth. And you had Andujar coming in. You had Benson off the bench the other day. You have Maxwell and Phillips in the bullpen stepping up. Like, they have real pieces that you need in September.
I thought the bullpen was going to be the difference in the series, and it was. I just didn't think it would be the Reds bullpen that outperformed San Diego's the last two nights. San Diego has arguably the best bullpen.
Unbelievable.
In the National League, maybe in the major leagues. And the Reds got to them the final two games. Now, you mentioned they didn't have all of their horses for the third game because they used them so much in the first two games. But the fact that the Reds bullpen outperformed them the final two series is the reason, or the final two games of the series is the reason the Reds won the series in San Diego. What an awesome series win for the Reds against a team that really has a chance to do a lot of damage in the playoffs, being San Diego. Okay, so now the Reds add a weapon. Chase Burns going to the bullpen. Going to be activated very soon. What's the vision right now for what Chase Burns can give this team in the bullpen? He was so great as a starter with his strikeouts and with his top side talent. What can he give this team in the bullpen the final couple of weeks?
The word scripted has been used. So, picture it like this. It's the fifth inning. The Reds are up by a run. All right, Burns is going to start to get hot to enter in the sixth. And they'll give him time to warm up. They want him to not going all in, being a reliever who has to get hot right away and learn all of those nuances. They'll give him time. It'll be a build-up. Maybe it's even the seventh, and then he'll be in for 1 or 2 innings. And it'll be a controlled environment with whole innings, not entering in the middle of innings, probably not pitching on back-to-back days.
Okay.
But then the question is, how long do you let him go?
Yeah.
This is going to be some real old-school, old-fashioned managing. There's no book on this. For a 22-year-old coming off a flexor strain, when every game is a must-win, there's not even a chance to give him a soft landing right now. Now, I would move some pieces around him to ensure that you have Chase Burns pitching when you have the lead. I would be more aggressive with how you used your bullpen before you put Burns in the game. But when he's there, he's a weapon. We've talked about the injury and bullpen stuff. We don't talk enough about the fact that he has had a fantastic season, showing that he is ready right now to just overwhelm great hitters.
You said old school managing, so I'm going to ask you about Terry Francona. Terry Francona's track record speaks for itself. His resume speaks for itself. How much of a spotlight is on Terry Francona here the final couple of weeks to help get this team across the finish line? This is what he's here for, right? This experience in September of helping young teams get to where they want to go. How much of this is on Terry Francona now to help this team get there in the playoffs in the next couple of weeks?
Well, this is a team with decisions to make every night. How you use Burns, how you use Nick Martinez, who I actually think could be used a little more aggressively. I don't feel like he's pitched enough in high leverage spots recently. You look at the fact that you have 10 guys in the mix for 9 spots in the lineup. And Steer, who's banged up, has been getting some off days. They've taken Brian Hayes out now and then. They've taken Sal Stewart out now and then. There's been that mixing and matching as they try to ride the hot hands. How do you do that? And that makes a lot of magnitude on every single lineup decision that you make because you're taking someone out. And then, oh, by the way, if Andujar ends up actually getting healthy, well, now you've got 11 guys. And maybe 12 because you can make the case that Will Benson should be playing more. So it's just reading your guys, understanding one of the times you have to push your chips in the middle of a game and empty your bench, especially with Andujar being banged up, because if you play that card, well, now you have to use another bench guy to replace him. There's a lot. And it's managing and trying to maximize a team that doesn't have enough superstar power right now, but can win with depth.
If you're watching on the stream, we're going to pop up the Reds' remaining schedule right now, and there are 5 series left. If you're listening on a podcast, the 5 series left are at the A's, at the Cardinals to finish this road trip. Then the Reds are home for 7 straight games against the Cubs and Pirates. I look today, as of now, they're scheduled to miss Paul Skeens in that Pirate series. That's a big deal. And then finishing on the road at Milwaukee, but we have no idea what that series might mean for Milwaukee. Certainly think Milwaukee will still play their guys because they're likely to get the bye and you want your guys to stay sharp. We don't know how Milwaukee will handle that, but those are the 5 series left. That is 16 games left on the Reds schedule. When you look at that, Charlie, are there series, are there moments, are there stretches that stand out to you as really important for this team? Look, every game's important, we get it, but is there something from the schedule that you take away and say, oh, that's going to be a big deal?
What there's not anymore is that series against the team you're chasing. So, like, what won't happen is you're going into this series being like, this is a big series,
Sure.
This is a spotlight series. They don't have that. What they do have, man, is a series this weekend against the A's that the Reds, who have played far from their best against the bad teams on their schedule all season. It is an A's team now that actually does have a sneaky, like, awesome lineup.
They could hit.
Pitching has been a real struggle. You just have to show up and outslug them in Sacramento this weekend. Like, this is one that the Reds need. This is a golden opportunity.
Sure.
This is one that they really have to capitalize on. 2 or 3, you can make the case, is what the Reds need. When I look at that list of series, Sacramento's the one that stands out to me the most.
74 and 72 as of this taping. What do you think the number is that gets them in?
17 to go. I don't know, 85,
Okay.
84. The bar has dropped.
It has.
The Reds are in the race because the Mets have collapsed. Let's be honest here. But the Reds have the talent to play their best baseball down the stretch. I think 84 or 85 does.
Okay, so you mentioned the Mets. So if you're watching on the streaming, let's pop up the Mets schedule now. And if you're listening on the podcast, the Mets schedule is difficult. We said this too because everybody said, oh, the Reds in August and September, it gets really difficult. And we said, keep in mind, the Mets have some really difficult teams left on their schedule. The Rangers are very much a factor.
Rangers are hot.
In the league. Yep, so then it's the Padres, and we just saw what the Padres are. They do finish with 6 of the final 9 games against the Nationals in Marlins, and you would think if the Mets are going to make the playoffs and hold off the Reds and the Giants, they're going to have to make their hay against those teams. So it's Rangers, Padres, National, Cubs, Marlins. Now let's pop up the Giants schedule because the Giants are very much a part of this as well. They are tied right now with the Reds, 2 games back of the final wild card spot behind New York. And look at that. They have 7 games against the Dodgers in their remaining schedule. It's Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Dodgers, Cardinals, Rockies. And oh, that final series, that final weekend when the Reds are playing the Brewers, the Mets are playing the Marlins, and the Giants are playing the Rockies. So it almost feels like the Reds, and depending on what Milwaukee has to do, right? We have no idea. Can the Cubs play themselves back into contention for the National League Central? Probably not, but we'll see. But what a weekend it would be if the Reds are playing the Brewers and then the teams that they're fighting against are playing the Rockies and the Marlins, respectively. Could be a wild final weekend here in the National League. Now that you've seen all the schedules, how would you handicap this? Do you think the Mets still have the best shot because of the cushion they have?
You know what? They end with the Marlins. The Mets are actually, the Marlins are a terrible matchup for the Mets.
They beat them 2 out of 3
You
just
look
a week
the way
ago.
they string those hits together, like thinking about those 2 teams, that's a very bad matchup for New York. You want to know, what a beautiful moment right here. It's September 11th. Here we are looking at schedules, breaking down matchups,
fun.
Playoff odds. This is a Reds team that we didn't think we'd be able to do that about this year. And they, again, have earned the opportunity to make this the big center of discussion.
I can't handicap it. I think I like the way the Giants look right now, but when you have 7 games against the Dodgers in the next 2 series, that's difficult. There are going to be teams that aren't involved in the playoff race. Well, I mean, listen, the St. Louis Cardinals are only a couple of games behind these teams, but the St. Louis Cardinals play both the Giants and the Reds. They're very much going to be a factor in what happens. But it's with me with the Reds, and you nailed it. Look, they have the big series against the Cubs. We get that. But it's the games against the A's, it's the games against the Cardinals, teams that they should beat or win series against. They've struggled all year long in those series. Those, to me, are going to be the spotlight games and series for me going forward with the Cincinnati Reds. But it's fun. It's great. Okay, let's go now to the Gold Rush. We're going to play a game of buy-sell from what we saw week 1 with the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm putting you on the spot. You watched the game. I'm sure you rewatched it so many times because you're Charlie. And you watched it in a way that coaches watch the game with the All-22. Who are you buying individually from the Bengals after week 1?
Amarius Mims, Noah Fant, and Jordan Battle.
I'm all on Jordan Battle. I was blown away by the way he played. Zach Taylor told me he played with his hair on
you need to see more from Dylan Fairchild. Not that I'm selling him long-term at all, but this is going to be a process with him. The power run game and the 4-minute offense is a theme I'm going to keep hitting back on because I think that's critical. The defensive backfield depth, I expected to be used more. And then the starters, of course, struggled. So I did expect DJ Ivey, maybe even Marco Wilson, 3 safety packages to be a bigger part of the answer, and they just weren't. So you'd want to see more from that.
This might be very similar to what I just asked, but what's the spotlight for you on this weekend against the Jaguars?
It's definitely the corners. Dylan Fairchild's going to be another part of it. The power run game, when they need a first down on 3rd and 1, like they did with 2 minutes to go in Cleveland, can they get it? Those are things the Bengals need to do better.
Give me a bold take on the Bengals offense against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's defense played great week 1, but again, like the Bengals, not a great offensive opponent. Bold take, do the Bengals break out against the Jaguars?
I'll say Burrow 300 passing yards. So you remember the Cowboys game from last year? Their slot corner, the Bengals did really well against. He's now the Jaguars' starting outside corner.
Okay.
Like, that's a matchup to look at right there. And their 2 safeties are like 30-year-olds who have not been starters for most of their careers. Their linebackers are notoriously hyper-aggressive, but not quite smart enough in coverage in terms of the awareness they show picking up certain concepts. So there are going to be chances in the middle of the field, on the outside. I like their chances.
We don't know how many snaps Travis Hunter will play defensively. I think he played, 4?
Something
week
like
1?
6.
Don't you think they would play him a little bit more against these superstar wide receivers we have in Cincinnati? So we'll see what they do with Travis Hunter.
That's a fascinating question.
To me, I think it's what I'm watching to see how many snaps Travis Hunter gets against the likes of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase in this game. Okay, fast start. 1-0, but I don't think a fast start ends at 1-0, right? If they were going to say we're making all these changes, it's not just for 1-0. What constitutes a fast start for the Bengals for you?
I'll say 3-1. I believe in September. And I believe in kind of giving a team a little time to work through, which is what kind of one loss would be. And so if they're 1-1, I don't think the story's closed on a fast start for them. I would say 3-1 in September, and they'd really have to earn it when you look at the Vikings and the Broncos defenses that are coming up.
Final question of the Gold Rush is this. How big of a game is this for the Bengals?
It's a wide open opportunity, especially for the passing game to get going, for, I think kind of the fans, for them to be engaged in a part of it with a win. Like, there just wasn't enough of that last season. There was the Broncos game, but there definitely wasn't enough of that early in the season last year. If they can open in orange, get off strong, I think that'll just let everyone start to, let's go. I think that would have a tangible impact on kind of how the fan base carries itself.
I think the young kids call that positive vibes all around Cincinnati about the team, and people aren't panicking about losses and slow starts. I think a 2-0 start does wonders for just the energy around Cincinnati, and I think that does infiltrate the team. Okay, we'll finish with the gold nugget. Before the show started, Charlie said, I got a great gold nugget this week. I can't wait to hear what it is. We dive into Charlie's notebook for a great anecdote, a great interview. What's your gold nugget of the week?
So Dalton Risner, who again exceeded expectations. I really tipped my cap to how he played in week 1. He was a free agent up until August 28th. So I said, Dalton, what were you doing? Woke up at 6, stretching progression, cold tub, lift for an hour, put on his spikes, walked to the local park. When I say the local park, I mean the local park. Walked through the cul-de-sac, about 100 mailboxes. There's a pickleball court and a basketball court on the left. On the right, there are some more of those mailboxes. In the middle, there's about a 20-yard patch of grass, where in Dalton's words, it's where people have their dogs poop. And every day he'd get there, he'd run 15 sprints up and back, 20 yards, take a 5-minute break, and then he would just do hundreds of offensive line sets on his own. Wide zone, inside zone, pull, left guard, right guard, pass protection dropbacks. At one point, someone walking their dog to him goes, nice fantasy football team you have going on there. He doesn't know that Dalton Risner is an actual football player. He just thinks this bald guy in the park is out here playing football. But let's remember the dogs again. Dalton Risner said something he learned this offseason was just how passionate he gets when people don't pick up after their dogs, because that happened several times. Now, Dalton stepped in some poop, was more worried about the snakes. Fortunately, he did not step on any snakes. He did step on some poop. So when the Bengals called him to come in for a workout, what he had to do to keep things safe, he did put his cleats in 2 grocery bags before he put the grocery bag in the duffel to create some more separation between the cleats and the rest of his equipment. Now, Dalton then says, here are the cleats. They're right here. They haven't been washed. So from stepping in poop in a park in Tampa, Florida, to the dog pound going up against a front limp by Myles Garrett's, those cleats have a heck of a story to tell.
Charlie just said poop 4 times on the Gold Standard. That's outstanding. Every week when I post this, I post it to try to get people to watch it. I'm going to mention that you said that word 4 different times.
Can I say one more thing?
Please say poop again.
Dalton was talking about the whole experience or whatever, and then it was my turn to ask a question. You know, he had said his piece. And I go, Dalton, I think this is going to be the worst question I've ever asked. Did you step in any poop?
Yes. That's number 5.
That was me doing my journalistic duty.
Outstanding. And I think it's great, too, that to paint the picture best, you had to get into all of these small details with him. You talked about the mailboxes, the pickleball court, the basketball court, and, of course, the snakes and the poop that Dalton Risner had to dodge to get ready for a football season. Outstanding gold nugget from Charlie Goldsmith. We do this every week. Next time we talk here, the Reds will have another week of games to see where they are. The Bengals will have another data point and a chance to get to 2-0 to start the 2025 season. He is Charlie Goldsmith. I am Joe Danavan. Thanks for listening to the Gold Standard on Fox 19 Now.